James Dorsey, an adjunct senior fellow at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies, joins us. Good to have you back with us. Firstly, we heard there from our correspondent, Reza, that Iran is preparing a response to potential retaliation after Israel struck a number of nuclear sites and assassinated a number of its top commanders. What are you expecting that response to look like? And will it bring the two sides closer to an all-out war?
I think that what we certainly can expect is a serious missile barrage. We've seen last year 2 missile barrages fired by Iran against Israel. Both of those were very carefully calibrated. They weren't necessarily the top missile types that the Iranians possess this time round. And they weren't designed to really hurt Israel. They were designed to demonstrate capability and to issue a warning. This time round is going to be different. Iran is going to want to hurt Israel. So I think the barrage is going to be fiercer. The type of missiles involved is going to be fiercer. That's one thing that we can expect. Iran has other options. It has the option, as your correspondent referred to, of attacking U.S. bases in the region. I think it's going to be careful not to, if it decides to strike at U.S. bases, not to strike at bases in countries like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. But nonetheless, we'll have to wait and see. And of course, it has asymmetric options, whatever that means, attacks on Israeli facilities in third countries or U.S. facilities, for that matter, in third countries. I think it's, your former commentator, William Lawrence, is right that you have to define what an all-out war is. Iran and Israel do not share a border. So unless you were able to invade by air or by sea, there's not going to be a land battle. I think what's also clear is that Israel is the militarily stronger party. Iran does not have an air force for any worth mentioning. Its air defenses, Israel claimed that it had wiped those out last year in strikes against Iran. Today seems to prove that the Israelis are right on that. There's been no anti-aircraft defense, to the best of our knowledge, trying to stymie Israeli Air Force planes over Iran. So missiles is likely to be the foremost response at this point.
We also heard from the US President Donald Trump since Israel launched its latest attacks. Among the comments that Trump made was that he hoped that these latest attacks would bring Iran back to the negotiating table in terms of reaching a potential new nuclear deal. Is that wishful thinking on Trump's part? Do you think that Iran has a renewed appetite to sit down with the US as they were supposed to on Sunday?
I would be very surprised if we still see the Iranians willing to go to negotiations on Sunday. What I do think is that Trump's remarks reflect a flawed US strategy, or certainly a flawed Trump strategy, and a flawed Israeli strategy, which is basically Trump has negotiated in these talks with Iran, essentially saying, this is what I demand that you do, this is what you're going to do, and if you don't do it, things are really going to get tough. That's in terms of language, in terms of tone, in terms of approach, not something that presumably went down very well in Tehran. Nevertheless, Iran did continue those negotiation talks. And in a sense, what Trump is saying now is a repetition of that strategy. The point here is that Iran, from the Iranian perspective, Trump indeed probably did not want initially an attack to take place, but Netanyahu was clearly betting on the fact that Netanyahu did not seem to be attaching any consequence to what would happen if Israel went against his wishes.
And James, in terms of the Israeli perspective, we know that its war in Gaza is ongoing. Its military has also now announced a complete siege of the occupied West Bank. So it would seem that its resources are being stretched right now. I mean, is Israel capable of opening up another front with Iran if indeed this escalates even further? And secondly, do you believe there is support within the Israeli public in terms of another conflict opening up with Iran?
Well, in terms of Gaza and the West Bank and whether or not that would allow them to open a third front, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Again, what wear and tear the Gaza war takes on the Israeli Defense Forces really is dependent on what their objectives are and what they need to achieve those objectives. At this point, they can just keep the West Bank and Gaza in a holding position if you want. The Israeli public is probably likely to support this strike on Iran. Essentially, let's keep in mind that if Trump in his negotiations doesn't do himself any favors with his language, Iran doesn't do itself any favors with its language, including the Holocaust denial and a lot of anti-Jewish rhetoric at times. So I think Israelis do view Iran as an existential threat. Whether or not they felt that this was the moment at which to strike Iran is a different question, but they will rally the wagons on this.
Okay, James Dorsey, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much again for joining us on TRT World.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.